there's two kinds of sounds that are very, very common in dubstep. You have your nice fat wobble, great, and you also have a nice big growl. The thing that distinguishes Zomboy sounds apart that I really like, and the reason I call this Zomboy bass, is that it sounds like this. It has that high frequency grit that goes along with the growl. That's like a sweet sound that you hear Skrillex do. Zomboy songs are just filled with this kind of cool sound design. So instead of just tweaking knobs until we get there, I'm going to show you 3 main steps that you need to get this Zomboy bass. So first, we want to have a band reject. Then we're going to go with a band pass. And last but not least, Bronner tube. And we'll deal with one at a time. Because it's a bass, we'll just turn this down. Everyone's happy. So I want you to understand what you're looking for and searching for with your ears for each filter, or for each section rather. And first with band reject, we want to look for a revolving high frequency on top of our oscillator that still comes through. So let me explain what I mean by that. If I turn off the filter, you get a nice standard fat sawtooth. If I turn this on, we still want to find a way to get that big sawtooth coming through, most of it anyways, and we want to have this annoying high-pitched revolving thing going on that we're going to make with our resonance. So with no resonance, listen to what it sounds like. We want some movement because that's what growls do, so they move. So I'm going to throw an LFO on, and let's hear what it sounds like with no resonance, just kind of going for it, band reject. It's almost like it goes between a sub and a higher sawtooth. Kind of cool, but not what we're looking for. So we want to get this sound, and we want to get a high-pitch revolve. Let's get that higher revolving thing going. Resonance up. Hey, there we go. So we get that high thing going on, and it's spinning, but it's not spinning nicely around our sawtooth. It's kind of going in and out with it. When I bring the bandwidth down, it's almost like we're just only adding this top sound. So that's the sound that we're kind of going for with your band reject. And I have mix all the way up here, so that's all you're hearing. No Bronner tube, nothing changed here. There we go. Great. Now we're going to move down to our band pass, and we're going to talk about what sound we're looking for here. Band pass, we're looking for a wet fart sound. So the difference is, with our wet fart, we want kind of that low subby sound, and then we want it to open up into a wet fart. So let's get some movement, as is common with bowel movements. There we go. Definitely a little wet, not wet enough. There we go. So right here, we get that almost like malady high sound. So the resonance isn't just kind of having this frequency sound. It makes it feel a little wet and chitty, if I may. So now we throw it into serial mode, and it's going to go from oscillator to band reject to band pass. Notice the mix is all the way down here, so it goes through, and then we hear both of them together, not just like this. Okay, great. Sounds like Pac-Man. Finish it up by throwing Bronner tube all the way up. And we definitely have something that's closer than what we had before. When we have a rate too high, that's what happens. It just... we don't hear any section for long enough to appreciate it. So we bring the rate down. And there we go. That's a pretty sweet growl. I mean, and then we just tweak it a little bit. And I mean, this is pretty standard, but throw a dimension expander on it. That's how you get started with Zomboy growls. I mean, you could try throwing some phase modulation on it. And just for good measure, throw an LFO on it. And that's how you kind of build things up from scratch. We don't want to just tweak knobs and say, hey, look, I made someone else's patch. We want to be able to know what we're looking for and be able to recreate those sounds with different wavetables, with different filters. So I don't know, let's try Drive 3, whatever. No, not so much. Let's try No. Deep throat. And with these things, you typically want to go with bend minus. That's just sort of a thing. So suddenly, we have some options, we have some variety. We're not just constrained by having to go with a very specific wavetable. We know what we're looking for. We know how to do it. So that's what I would say for step 1, is just understand these 3 pieces together, and then we'll go in and make things cool with a different wavetable and add all this stuff to it. So, step 1. I usually put these in order from easiest to hardest for these 3 topics, but this one's pretty much as easy as it gets. So, I called it a Zomboy sound, and this is a nice growl, but it's not quite Zomboy-y yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to put an envelope onto the wavetable position and on bend minus intensity. And that's really all there is to it. So for this, I want a macro to be able to control this. I want this to control the amount of Zomboy that there is. So right now, we get that really high frequency sound that, again, I've been talking about. I want this bass to be able to be a normal bass and then go harder for Zomboy mode. I don't want to just be stuck with like this really aggressive bass all the time. So what I do is I find a nice envelope position that I think sounds pretty good. And then I bring the levels all the way down, macro them up, so it's as though I never left. So it's a pretty subtle difference, but let's look again at gentle speech. And let's look at no, that sounds stupid. Scrapyard, I like that one. So instead of just having a patch that always sounds like a really big bass, we want to be able to, let's just do this real quick. Zomboy. We want to be able to turn the Zomboy mode on and off. So, hey, cool, growl. Everyone's happy. Zomboy mode. So you can hear that, like, that high frequency growl that we land on. That's so appealing here. So I don't want you to just make a patch that sounds cool one time. I want it to be versatile. So we get our cool envelope set ready to go, turn down the levels on attack and decay, throw the macros back on, and we're good to go. So that is the Zomboy macro. So the first step that we did is make a cool patch. The second step was turn things up with an aggressive macro that we called a Zomboy macro. The third step that you want to add in most of your sounds is this other version that I'm going to call a holster macro. I'm going to just give it a shitty title here. Holster macros are made to just turn things down and allow you to use the same patch that you use in a drop, in a build, in a breakdown, in other sections of the song, so that you get more out of your patches. So what we want to do with that is we want to be able to turn things down with a macro and then open things up for our regular sound. If you recall in our band pass, we were looking for a wet fart sound. Well, the deep subbiness was caused by the cutoff coming down here, and then the high-pitched wet fart sound was when it went up here. by our fifth LFO. Same thing up here, we got movement with our fifth LFO on the cutoff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just shut that all down by attaching a macro to the amp. When I turn this up, no movement. Now, we don't want to just kill our patch altogether. We want to give it a little bit of breath. There we go. So when I turn this off, when I bring this macro all the way up, what it's doing is it's just turning this LFO mostly off, but not entirely. So it still resembles the patch that we will eventually open up. Now, if you recall, we had that wet fart sound, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring the cutoff here to where it was just sounding pretty subby. By nature, bringing cutoff down is just going to get rid of a lot of the high end, and that's really the goal here for a subdued version. I'll even attach a macro to our high shelf. It's basically like a glorified low-pass filter. I mean, that's literally what this is here, and you could argue that that's what this is doing down here. Now, I'm going to look for one more spot here just to mix things up. There we go. So things are a lot quieter, a lot more subdued. So when I open this up here, I can use that for a build, I can use it for a drop, I can use this all over the place. But it's not just throwing a low-pass filter on your patch and calling it a day. It's actually building it into the patch so that A, you don't have to go for a low-pass filter, and B, you can tweak it to include multiple parameters. I could do this here, bring it down on the distortion, so things are even quieter. Now check it out. We're going to go one more step with a fourth macro to give us a rhythmic element that I think will sound pretty cool. So again, with the interests of builds, we want to add some rhythm into this patch so that it can get us somewhere. It can get us to the drop. So I'm going to look for 2 tones. That's it. That kind of works. So let's try attaching our performer so it goes from serial to parallel. Listen to what that does. You can hear like just the slightest amount. Let's try moving mix 2 to mix 1. Oh, bam, money. What we're going to do is we're going to attach performer 7 again to the mix to give us 2 tones, and it's going to go between them. There we go. Now, because we want to be able to control this with a macro, that's why I attached macro 4 here. I'm going to call this rhythm. Great. Now when this is off, no rhythm. When it's on, there we go. And let's see what happens when we open up the bandwidth, tighten it up. I'm just going to try to bring this into as many parameters that I think give it a second tone. A little bit there. Try a little bit on the cutoff. Both cutoffs. See how that just automatically, in like a few quick steps, turned into a nice build. So this is what we had before. Something that you could definitely use right here. But then what do you do before and what do you do after? Let's say we moved over here. Let me find the right note here. Okay, now check it out. This holster macro and this rhythm macro are what are going to just tie the rest of the track together. So I didn't have any other elements there. I just had one patch. So I didn't have a riser, didn't have any swooshes, white noise, sidechained, and I didn't have any chords going or plucks or whatever. So just with these 3 macros, I was able to definitely imply another section and give it a little bit more depth. So in summary, we want to have a holster macro to make things quiet and shut up. We want to get a rhythm macro here so then we can get some movement in a build, in a breakdown. I don't care. So get more out of your patches. Everybody's happy, me especially. So that's what I got for you guys today. Let me know if you have any mastering requests at ryan@occstudios.com, and I'll be back soon.